The intersection of sports and politics is one with a long and storied past, and this moment in Minnesota sparking that same kind of historical outrage. Breanna Stewart is one of the best basketball players on the planet, and this week, before a game, she held up a sign that says, "Abolish ICE." The protest is especially notable, given that her wife is from Spain and is currently a green card holder. Stewart is one of the many athletes and celebrities speaking out in this moment, including Bruce Springsteen, who released a song this week in part to honor Renee Good and Alex Pretti.
Then we heard the gunshots, and Alex Pretti lay in the snow dead. Their claim was self-defense, sir. Just don't believe your eyes. It's our blood and bones and these whistles and foams against Miller and Noam's dirty lies.
And Jemele, you write in your op-ed what Breanna Stewart said, which is, "I think that when human lives are at stake, it's bigger than anything else."
Yeah, this is a bit of a change. Now, of course, in 2020, we recall and remember so many athletes speaking out between George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of the events, the presidential election. So we saw them really at the forefront. But kind of since then, it's been muted. And much like we discussed earlier in the show about how, you know, with the arrest of Don Lemon, it sends a chilling effect. And I think we have seen a different political climate in the last couple of years, and especially for Black athletes with the anti-DEI stuff and everything like that. I think it made a lot of athletes very hesitant to speak up in these moments. And so now with this, I think it was so across the line. And this is personal, as you noted, for Breanna Stewart. And women tend to lead the way. Like a lot of the players in the WNBA, they have been very outspoken about how they feel about this administration. So I think for athletes, this represents them, you know, finding their voice. I mean, the Bruce Springsteen song, LeBron reposted it.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to see a lot more of this in this moment.
Yeah, and there was this letter, you talk about this in your op-ed as well, from all these business leaders in Minnesota. And in that letter, the teams all signed up to join in condemning what's been happening on the ground. And to me, you know, that goes the way that the people are, because teams are not going to not side with their fans. And it tells you a lot, I think, of where they think that not only where the state is, but where the country is on this issue.
Well, I would say something broadly strategically for others to think about. The president will come after you one-on-one and you're defenseless, but if you're 60 people together or the Fortune 1000 got together and they had some more unanimity in terms of what they're doing and saying, they would take on the president and they would be more successful. And everything that happened, the CEOs, the artists, are additional reasons why the president pulled back in Minnesota.
Yeah. Let me play what Edward Norton said earlier this week about what he thinks should happen after Alex Pretti's death.
I think what they're doing in Minnesota with the strike needs to expand. I think we should be talking about a national general economic strike until this is over.
So on Friday, there is some attempt to make that national strike happen. Well, it's unclear how widespread it will be, but do you think that's even an effective strategy in this day and age?
I think everything altogether is effective. I think the murder of Alex Pretti and Renee Nicole Good crossed a threshold that now has entered this into the general public's mind. And one specific athlete, one specific, strike may not be it, but everything together, the protesters out there in -10 degrees, combined with Bruce Springsteen, combined with multiple athletes coming out in unison, combined with business leaders all coming together to say, hey, this is not good. I think that crossed the threshold. I think the videos also crossed the threshold, and then the administration lying to us after did as well. So will one strike have enough leverage to change ICE? No, but think about all the voices that came together, and Democrats heard that and said, wait a minute, we do have some leverage with this upcoming appropriations bill, and then they use that leverage. So I think altogether it's pretty powerful.
I like Bruce Springsteen. If I quit listening to all the people I didn't agree with politically, I would be stuck with Lee Greenwood. Nothing wrong with Lee Greenwood. I like Lee Greenwood.
Just you and Lee Greenwood.
I mean, look, it's a free country. They can do what they want to do. My issue is, why is it when people are celebrating something on the left and the Democrats. It's we're talking about here, and when conservatives do it, they get blacklisted in Hollywood. People like Rob Schneider, who came out recently and said, yeah, I'm a conservative. I got blacklisted in Hollywood. James Woods has been very public about being blacklisted because he's a conservative. And that to me is always why are we always celebrating something when it's just on the Democratic side? And when conservatives speak out, it's not quite
You're going to have to pick somebody.
I feel like
some people that are a little more relevant.
I feel like there was some cancel culture on the right.
They've been very public about
After Charlie Kirk was murdered, I feel like if anybody who mentioned his name got canceled by the right. So I feel like I guess with your celebrity framework, it just, I don't know, it doesn't.
But I mean, that's my point, though. But the media lifts up the Democratic narrative every single time. But if somebody speaks out in a conservative fashion, Hollywood blacklists them, and suddenly they're not getting.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can equate what Hollywood does with what media does. I mean, they're not the same
It's all
thing.
together. I mean,
Hollywood
I don't
is
think
an
anybody on the
industry
conservative
of
side would
people
disagree with
who
me.
The
may or may
boycott
not
would
have
work,
very similar points of view, so they are entitled to do what they want to do.
No, the boycott would work.
Yeah.
Yep. If you had a consumption boycott or a workers walkout, it would hit the stock market, which is the number one thing that
Donald Trump
the
cares
president
about.
looks at.
Yeah.
And that boycott work, and Scott Galloway's on it. It's not just Ed Norton. There's a lot of people that are looking at it saying this may be the thing to do.
Yeah. So the
sit-ins in the 60s. You know?
By contrast, in the Australian Open, a bunch of tennis players were asked about this, and most of them said nothing. So what do you think is going on there?
Well, I'm not surprised. And, Coco Gauff, I think she was probably the most poignant about it. Because one thing that is a particular irritation of mine is that sometimes when we are in this moment of discussing social justice, wider, larger issues, they always run to the black athletes and say, well, what do you have to say about it? And I'm like, white people live here too, okay? And they're athletes, they're in the same similar position. So if there is more talking points to be had, they should be in a space where they're answering some of these questions. Personally, I would love to see the media ask some of the athletes who have been outwardly supportive of MAGA, ask them, do you still support this administration based on what you've seen? Is anybody going to ask Nick Bosa that? Is anybody going to ask any of those athletes that have been outwardly supportive of the president how what they've seen jives with their own beliefs? I'd love to see that instead of always running to black athletes, asking them to put their careers and their brands on the line in answering these questions.
All right, next for us, the panel's